Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. and today I'm reviewing Nocturne from Flatout Games. Nocturne is Flatout newest point-scoring, puzzly optimization game, and everything you see here is a prototype, all rules and components subject to change, and I'll have a link to the crowdfunding campaign down below. With that, Nocturne is a bidding game in which you are trying to outbid your opponents, but not so much on what they are bidding, but rather on the thing next to what they're bidding. This will all make sense in a second, because across two rounds, across two full sequences of laying out the board and bidding on these tiles, players are going to be attempting to acquire these tiles, as well as these tiles over here, in order to score as many points as possible. We'll talk about how you acquire those tiles shortly, but let's give a few examples of how you're scoring, just so you have an idea of what and why before we get into the actual turn sequence. You're trying to score as many points as possible. You're going to have that all listed on this little handy dandy little score sheet over here that tells you all the various things you're going to score for. The first 5 are going to be different tile types. So for example, these blue tiles are simply worth the points shown on them. This is a 3-point tile, a 2-point tile, and a 4-point tile. Feathers, on the other hand, feathers score for the number of feathers you have. So you can see over here, if you have as many as 7 feathers, you'll get up to 32 points for having feathers. Meanwhile, mushrooms, there actually are no mushrooms over here, interestingly enough. There are no mushrooms. Let's find you a mushroom so we can get and take a look at a mushroom. If there are any mushrooms over here to go through. Over here we go. Here's a mushroom. Mushrooms are going to score based on how many you have of each type, and there are different types. For example, this one scores 3 for 1, 0 for 2, and 13 for 3. Meanwhile, there are other mushrooms, such as, for example, this one over here, which is 0 for 1 and 9 for 2 of them. So mushrooms will give you a little minor set collection game that is a little separate from everything else. Then you're going to have these greenery tiles, these herbs. These are going to score for having, first of all, the tile themselves. So, for example, you can see a 3-point tile and a 1-point tile, but additionally, for having unique sets of 3, 4, or 5, you'll also get a bonus, which means you can get, 2 3s and 3 1s would be already, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 points. 9 points, plus potentially a bonus of 5 points, of 12 points, moving 21 points for 5 tiles, depending on what you gather, but you do want different types of those tiles. And then lastly over here, we have the eggs. The eggs are going to score for whoever has the most eggs is going to score 4 points per egg. Meanwhile, whoever has the second most eggs will score 3 points per egg, then 2, then 1. But ideally, you want as many eggs as possible, and then you'll score a lot of points for those eggs. Fewer eggs means, you won't get as many. So you kind of either want to go broke, go broke or go home, or is that the expression? I think that's the expression. Anyways, past that, there are additionally other tiles as well that will help you in your journey. We won't go heavily through those, but I'll explain just one of them. Let's explain 2 of them. So over here, we have this mirror tile. This lets you copy a tile. It can be very useful for completing a set of feathers, completing a set of eggs, or things like that. Or maybe even a set of herbs, although it copies a tile, so not necessarily the same over there. Then we also have these tiles over here. These tiles, you can see a few of them over here, are going to let you draw 3 cards from these cards over here and pick one. And these cards, these are going to give you options for ways you can score points for having the requisite symbols. So for example over here, if we have 2 feathers, 2 mushrooms, and 2 egg symbols, you'll get 7 points. If we just have 1 row, we'll get 3 points over there. And you can see some of the eggs have 2, some have 1, some of the feathers have 2, some have 1. So you'll see, and also these as well will also have symbols on them, which means you're trying to get symbols that match those cards and pick cards that are going to match the tiles you're already acquiring or are planning on acquiring. That's going to be a chunk of the points. There are a few other things on here, but we won't focus as heavily on this because now you can get a sense of what we try to do as we start bidding. So right now over here we're set up for a 3-player game. I have 2 full player setups plus just some colors in the background over here. Let's go ahead and start off with blue taking the first bid of the round, which has to be your lowest tile. You must bid with your lowest tile for the first bid of each of the 2 rounds, and the rounds are the full sequence of clearing the board. Past that, you have complete freedom to bid as you want, but let's go ahead and place this down, and let's say that blue wants to start collecting feathers. It's early game. Let's get in it, and he knows he's not getting that feather, but at least by bidding over here, in fact, he's going to bid here, because at least by bidding there, he locks out anyone else from getting that feather, even though he knows he's going to be outbid. Now, earlier I said you are outbidding opponents, but not on what they are bidding for, rather on other things. And to that end, let's go ahead and have green go over here. Green's going to go ahead and bid a 3, something higher, but on an adjacent tile. So you cannot outbid on that tile itself, rather you outbid on something else. And green's going to go over here, again, knowing that he probably won't get anything. Those are low tiles. You may not get much for it. Meanwhile, over here, we're going to go ahead and have orange is going to jump in, and orange is going to try to actually get the mirror. It's a nice early play, but the mirrors can be very useful for completing sets. So orange is going to go ahead and pop up with that over there and be very happy with that tile. which would be great, except it's back to blue's turn. We're going to ignore pink for the sake of this 3-player setup. We're going to go back to blue turn, and blue's actually very interested in that double dragon egg. That's both helpful for starting the dragon egg collection. He's pivoting from his feather plan, plus those dragon eggs up here. There's a lot of possible dragon egg points if you play it right. Everyone goes around, they go ahead and pass, and you could bid higher. You do have above your 7, you have your instant guaranteed win. The problem is you kind of want to save that for when you want an instant guaranteed win. At that point, everyone else is going to go ahead and pass. And so right now we're going to have blue is going to remove his tile from the board and put it back here, this original bid. But the other colors have the opportunity to move their rejected bids up here where they could vie for control over there. And we're going to actually go ahead and have them both do so. You're going to do it in order of numerical order, which means at the end of the round, assuming this didn't change, and rest assured it will change, you're going to have orange picking one of these tiles followed by green, and you can have a maximum of 5 tiles up here. Additional tiles that are pushed off go back to their owners. Blue is going to select this tile, leave his tile face down the grid, where he's already being mindful of the various scoring goals, because right now in this first round of play, we have the twilight goals: be the first to control an area of 3 or more spaces, be the first to win a tile with a 3 spell, and have the largest control area. This over here is the start of a control area. Blue went ahead and won that bid, which means blue starts off the next bidding, and so blue is going to go ahead and start it off with, let's say we'll start off with a nice, this is a treasure chest. These let you draw 3 tiles and keep 1 from the stack, giving you agency, but at the cost of a negative point over there. So let's go ahead and start getting those dragon eggs. You know what? We'll actually start with a nice, decent high bid over here. We'll start with a 4 and see how things play out. It's going to orange over here, to green. Green is not actually averse to collecting those feathers, so green's going to go here, and orange is going to pass, blue's going to pass, which means blue now has the opportunity to go up here with their bid and move this in. Earlier, when I removed that 1 from blue, the person who wins the bid can never put their rejected tiles up here, only the players who did not win their bid. Green's going to go ahead and take this tile, turn this the thing face down, and they now start their own set collection of feathers over there, and once again, green starts the next bid, and Green's going to go ahead and start off with, you know what? We're going to go start off with a 3 over here, hoping to win that bid with a 3. Then over here, we're going to go ahead and have it's orange's turn, and orange is actually going to be a little clever and show you some of the ways you can manipulate the board state. Orange doesn't actually care that much about competing with blue for dragon eggs. There's a bunch of the eggs. I don't know if they're actually dragon eggs. There's mysterious eggs. But orange kind of wants to get a few things going here, and to that end, they're going to start by placing a tile over here. They're not going to place their instant win. That would be too much of a work for them. But they will place their 7, ensuring, you know what, even their 6 might be good enough over here. Let's go ahead and place our 6 down over here, forcing blue to examine whether they want to bid a 7 to outbid. In fact, I think blue's 7 is gone. They can't outbid unless they use their instant win. And an instant win is not worth it for the treasure chest, so they'll pass, which means green could go over here, but they don't want to pay 7 for a treasure chest. It's not worth it right now, so they'll pass, which means orange is going to get this tile, and with it, they're going to have an extra opportunity, which you'll see in a second. Green over here is going to go ahead and move their tile up here. Why not? 3s for those are not bad at all. And now it's orange's turn to start the next bid. When you win a bid, you start the next bid. But now, if orange bids and there's no way for someone to outbid, it's an instant guaranteed win, and that can happen over here, which means orange has 2 good choices in front of them. The first option is they can go ahead and place a 1 down. They will instantaneously win this bid because there are no adjacent spots to go for, so they'll get that tile at a very low cost. Their other option is to do the exact same thing but with a 3, because that will mean they'll be the first to win a tile with a 3 spell, getting them an extra 3 points, and they'll go ahead and do that. They're going to go ahead and win that tile with a 3. It's a guaranteed win. No one else can go. They get that, which means they're going to go ahead to this stack over here, and they're going to select 3 tiles and keep one of those if they can just unstick over here. And we have these options. We could go for, you know what, let's go ahead and start off our process of going for those, which means we're going to go ahead and draw 3 concoctions, and we're going to go ahead and we should keep the treasure chest because it's negative points. We'll draw 3 concoctions over here. Look at these. And we'll go ahead and see which 2 things we think we can win. We already have a green from that tile. We have an egg. So maybe this one is a good start to go with. We'll go with that for our things, and these will be tucked underneath that pile. Now, one thing worth mentioning is whenever you win a tile with an instant win, whenever you have an immediate I win on the first time, what happens is the next player in turn order goes first. Meaning usually when you win a tile, you go first. But in this case, the next player will, and that becomes relevant, and the reason for that becomes apparent when you get towards the end of the round, and you'll see that sometimes you can have a cascading effect of multiple instant wins in a row, depending on the board state, and to avoid that, you have the next player getting the second attempt to go after you get an instant win. Which means blue's going to go ahead and start this off. Orange went ahead and took this 3-point twilight spell over here, and now it's blue's turn, and right about now, we're going to go ahead and stop with, this over here, and go with continuing the explanation of the game. This is basically the bidding sequence over here. You are bidding on the various tiles. You're going to have players outbid you by going adjacently, so they're outbidding what you want, but they have to be mindful of what they want and whether that's worth it, and are they denying you or possibly overpaying for a tile they don't even want. They have to be mindful of that balance of their own goals versus frustrating your goals. At the end of the round, in descending order, you're going to go ahead and have these tiles given out to the players in descending order. If you ever have another tile entering the board, let's pretend this 4 is entering the board. If you ever have another tile entering the board on this grid, you put it to the right of any tiles of the same value. So this would go here and not there when you place it onto the grid. Now these 5 players over here, or these 5 tiles, will each get the corresponding tiles from here in turn order. So orange, blue, orange, green, green would be the picking order of this board over here. And then you're going to go ahead and reset the board. This is going to continue until this entire board is clear. That's when you move to the end of the round sequence. And then you're going to go ahead and reset for the next round, which has a few things. First of all, you'll completely reset the board with new tiles from the bag or from wherever you have them stored. You're going to reset this board over here with new tiles as well. You're going to give players back their tiles, but before you do so, based on whoever has the highest tiles left in their grid, you're going to assign these shadow spells over here. So the way that works is, just to give an example, let's pretend at the end of the round we had, let's just for the sake of, I don't even have a good space for it, but let's pretend we had these tiles left at the end of the round over here like so. Let's go ahead and throw in a tiebreaker number over here. There we go. Let's pretend these are the 5 tiles left from various players at the end of the round, and whatever. We should have more then. Let's put another tile there. There we go. Okay. Let's pretend we have these tiles left at the end of the round. You're going to sort them in ascending order. So 7, 6, 5, 5. Whenever there's a tie, you break it based on this board over here. So 7, 6, 5, 5, 4, 3. And then those players are going to get the corresponding spells from the shadow spells, which they can use for next round to have slightly higher spells. So in other words, whatever you don't use round 1 will carry over into round 2 with higher spells, and then in exchange, you'll get rid of your lowest spells. You're not going to get rid of these, you're going to get rid of your lowest spells. So based on what you have left, you're getting these higher spells you can utilize and benefit from as you move into round 2. In round 2, you're going to get rid of the remaining twiligals. You're going to give out the rest of the twiligals. You're going to have players go ahead and deal out new moon goals over here, which are going to be different ways of scoring points in the game based on certain, things on the cards. And then you're going to repeat the exact same sequence, doing a full another round of tile acquisition. And then you're going to go ahead and score up your points, which has already covered for the most part, has these 5 things over here. Losing a point for every treasure chest. You're going to score points for your concoctions, point for your twilight goals and your moon goals, 2 points for every remaining spell, and 2 points if you did not use your Fox ability. Foxes have abilities, which you don't have to use in the basic mode, but if you're playing in the advanced mode, you'll use the abilities, and if you do not use those abilities, then you get 2 points. It's a one-time use ability, and then it's gone, or it's worth 2 points instead. And that is how you play Nocturne. You are placing bids around the board, trying to outbid each other, trying to gather these various tiles, using that bidding mechanism, using the general game state, the various abilities, all those things, to try to efficiently get the best sets of tiles to score as well as possible in the game, which brings us to the review, starting off with ease of play. For the most part, this game is set collection, which means if you've played set collection and you understand the way different things will give you points, this is fairly standard in that sense. Of course, it has its own, spins or the things it does, but if you've played set collection games, this is mostly set collection. The only thing that's really confusing, or the thing you have to pick up, is the nature of a bidding game in which you are outbidding your opponents, but not for the thing that they are bidding on. That is slightly not intuitive. I've only really seen it done once before in one other game, and that's Metropolis, and I think that it's very much, or I guess it's what's the new one from Roxley? It's no longer called Metropolis, it's called Sunrise City? Something like that, I believe. Anyways, past that, that bidding mechanism is a little bit to get your hands on, to get your head around how that operates and to realize the patterns that can emerge, especially as you start creating little areas of the grid where you can more efficiently get what you want because of how things are blocked off. And so it's a very easy game to learn as far as rules, but it will take a round or two of placing. I do recommend starting off with a few placements that are fictional and not actually locked in, so players can get a sense or a feel of how bidding would carry out. A game length runs around the 30 to 45 minute range. It will of course depend on players and how fast they're moving, but you could knock out a game in the 45-minute range pretty easily, 30 minutes if you're being aggressive. As far as what I like, don't like, and can see others not liking, overall, this has a lot of things that I generally like about Flat Out Games game designs, which is just a good degree of points, puzzliness, and set collection, and different things that all merge well together to give you stuff to strive for, to give you various things to puzzle out what's the most efficient way to gather all these points. Do I want to heavily go for various tiles on the board? Do I want to go for a bunch of these potions over here to be able to go ahead, potions, concoctions, whatever, to be able to get all those extra points because you can double up on getting things for these and getting things for their point scoring. The flip side is getting these might distract your focus. Maybe you wanted to get 32 points from those, feathers, but you can't because you're trying to fulfill these goals, and so you will try to constantly be balancing the things you're going for and what is most efficient for your engine. But then you combine that with the bidding system, which again I've only seen done once before, and I like that bidding system. I find it a clever little system of trying to think through how to get what you want. The nature of outbidding your opponent, but leaving that thing in play is an interesting aspect that I just don't see done often, and I like the execution in a game that you're otherwise trying to gather all these tiles. So I like that combination of things. The color palette, by the way, while we're over here, the color palette is beautiful. I love non-standard colors, and even though you technically have, blue and green over here, the shades of blue, green, orange, and pink, everything over here just looks beautiful, which is standard for a flat-out games design. But then past that, the various goals you have in the game, the fact that you have these twilight goals and the moon goals is going to keep things different. The fact that you won't see all the tiles every single game, the fox leader powers keep things a bit different as well. The fact that you have all these balancing what you go for on these little concoction cards, all of these, the losing bids fact, the fact that when you lose a bid, you move to this higher board over here, giving you a second kind of little mini game you're trying to vie for, depending on what you're trying to go for. If you want those dragon eggs, I keep calling them dragon eggs, if you want those dragon eggs, then trying to get this board is important, but so is trying to have control over this board. And so you're puzzling all that out, and then you walk into the second round with those shadow spells, which are going to give you an additional thing to consider and being mindful of as you go through the game. So overall, it's just a good set collection, point scoring optimization game, combined with a good bidding system that I like the way it's been implemented over here, and the way it feeds into that set collection in a clever and interesting combination of mechanics. As far as things I don't like in the game, first of all, the inability to plan for round 2 is going to be the biggest thing. Meaning you kind of place out the tiles over here, and like I said already, you don't see all the tiles in the game, so you're not going to see the entire stack. You'll see this bunch of tiles round 1, you'll see a bunch of tiles round 2, but you won't see everything. And the inability to plan around that is a bit of a, not necessarily a problem, but could result in a luck-based wins or losses for players on the table, depending on what they're going for. If I'm relying on another dragon egg or two coming out the next round, and they just don't, that might heavily affect how I play the first round and what I could or couldn't have gotten. If I was trying to go for as many different herbs as possible, and they just don't come out, or those feathers, you're going to have situations where you don't see everything, and that can hurt your ability to actually go for what you're looking for, which again just means one player might get what they want in round 2, another player might not. Now you do see most of the tiles, so this isn't necessarily as big of a problem as it may be painted out to be, but it certainly is something that can affect your first and second rounds, trying to plan or understand around what will be there. I'll also say that I kind of wish, I like how in the first round of play, they kind of give you those shadow spells as compensation for higher or lower spells being left. I almost wish the same thing happened with the second round as far as what spell tokens you have left in the round. You do get 2 points for each spell, but it's not based on, the strength of the spell, so in round 2, there's no real incentive to hold back past, waiting for that next optimal placement, and I kind of wish there was that same, hey, by the way, if you held back a bit, you do get that extra something or other, whatever that something or other might be. As far as I can see others not liking about the game, first of all, you can definitely feel trapped by the board state. If you don't understand that puzzle, if you don't grasp the puzzle of how things placed out and how you can create little situations, you can easily have players who do understand that puzzle dancing around you, getting multiple tiles won because they understand exactly how to structure a bid so it snakes around at a low value, creeps up to the right value, and ends where they can now get 2 tiles in a row. So it's easy to feel stuck in that board state if you don't understand it, and you have to understand the system. It's a very unique, different system of things being closed off and opened up as you go, and so that's just it's something that could be frustrating. I'll also say that, like any bidding game, you do run into situations where your perfect bid might be frustrated by somebody who outbids you when they shouldn't. Meaning, effectively, when you have players of different skill levels or different understanding of what something is worth, you might have planned perfectly the right bid, that 6 tile was good for you, the only way you'll get outbid is if somebody else bids a 7 on something that's just not good for them, and then they do so, ruining your bid placement. Like any other game, this is victim to a third player kind of not fully understanding the dynamics or the value things, and then messing up your turns accordingly. That is present here as well. As far as final thoughts on Nocturne, I generally like flat-out games. Generally, they're specifically their point scoring optimization puzzles. Cascadia, Verdant, Calico, Fit to Print. Overall, their systems have all been slightly different in terms of what they bring to the table, while sharing similarities. Cascadia and Calico are easily my 2 favorites in the series, but Fit to Print, Verdant, they both are enjoyable in their own different ways, and Nocturne is certainly going to be added to that list. the point scoring puzzly of just gathering tiles, I can't say they did anything amazingly special with this. It's good, it works, but the point scoring puzzly nature of just, hey, here's like 7 different tiles and here's 7 different ways they score, that's been done before to death in so many games. And while what they did works, it's not new, it's not intuitive, it doesn't feel different, it just feels like, hey, this is a game design that's been done and here you go. But the combination with that scoring system, with that bidding system that was present in Metropolis, or again, I keep forgetting Sunrise City? I think it's Sunrise City, I could be mistaken, but from Roxley. But either way, that bidding mechanism combined with those point scoring tiles, they're just two mechanics that work well together to give me a game that I want to play again, and I want to play again, and I want to keep trying to figure out in that 30 to 45 minutes how I can most efficiently outbid my opponents to get the tiles and get that set collection that I want. Again, both things in this game are not innovative. I've seen both of these things done, one very specifically in a unique situation, and one generically in dozens of situations, but the merging of the two of them work well together. To me, this is a 4 out of 5. It's just it's another good point scoring puzzly optimizer within the Flat Out Games universe. As far as other game recommendations, first of all, that other game I mentioned, Metropolis or Sunrise City, which I can't remember. I'm so upset at myself right now. But that other game from Roxley and or previously before Roxley, Metropolis, that is going to have the same bidding mechanism. If you like the aspect, if you play this game and you like that little challenge of moving around the board, outbidding your opponents, creating little structured areas where you lock each other off, Metropolis/Sunrise City has that done. I would argue done better. That gives you more opportunity for clever play in terms of the way it's going to let you have that board state be not just a grid, but a full developed board state, giving you lots of opportunities for clever ways to cut each other off and to get into those ways and to set yourself up. If you like that system, I highly recommend you check out that game. And if you're looking for one of the best games of gathering sets of tiles and being mindful of the different way tiles have value to you or not, Ra from Reina Knizia, most recently published by 20th Century Games, Ra also has that aspect of being forced to examine how you want to gather sets of tiles in order to score those tiles and or sometimes be hurt by those tiles as well in Ra from 25th Century Games. In any case, until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one.